Today we're going to talk about the What's Up Beauty Dragon Eye eyeshadow palette. This is going to release on Friday, November 17th for $45 USD. I'm not affiliated with this brand, but I did receive this palette in PR, so of course there's a little bit of bias there, but as always, I'm going to try to remain fair and objective as possible. So they sent me a little info sheet with the palette. I'm just going to give you some key points off that sheet. So it contains 5 mattes and 7 shifty shimmers. It says all of the shimmers in this palette either contain shades of green or shifts to green, which is interesting. It also says that this is a clean beauty palette, which I don't really subscribe to, but if you do, there you go. They're talc-free and using quote-unquote clean ingredients. They're also cruelty-free, sustainable, with eco-friendly 30% post-consumer recycled material. And the packaging is honestly so beautiful. Like, the packaging is a work of art in itself. It has this beautiful like embossing of a dragon with dragon scales, and the actual scales are hollow and reflective, and they're like pink and purple. So pretty. Like, if you're a packaging person, you will love this. So the actual pans are smaller than I expected. I have some size comparisons up on the screen, hopefully, if I remember, but honestly I love that they're smaller because it allows them to put the palette at a lower price point. And let's be real, a lot of us don't need like these giant pans of eyeshadow, especially a lot of my audience. I know you guys are like eyeshadow lovers just like me. So I think honestly that's a plus that they're a smaller pan size. And I'm also thrilled to announce that the pans are removable, which I found out from Regina's Makeup Stash on YouTube/Instagram. I'll link her below. Removable pans add a ton of value in my opinion because they basically double as singles. If you're like a chronic BYOP maker like me, you know how exciting it is when a palette allows you to pop out the pans. So the mattes they describe as creamy mattes that are neutrals with pops of color. I would describe these as warm tones, and then these like romantic mauvey purpley tones, which I love. I love these types of tones. I will say I did have a bit of trouble trying to pair the two like really green shifty shades in here with the mattes that are available in the palette, and that's honestly mostly a skill thing / preference thing. But other than that, no complaints about the mattes. I mean, they were really easy to work with. They blended well with each other. Haven't tried using them with other formulas, so I don't know how well they play with others, but I've heard overall good things about the What's Up Beauty mattes. Okay, and then the shimmers. These are gorgeous. There's like a few different finishes that I'll get into as I describe each shade. Overall, they're PC, dimensional, and either have a sheer or a semi-sheer base. So let me describe all the shades to you. So first we have Monster, which has a semi-sheer black or gray base and mostly purple reflect from straight on. Then I see a bunch of different colored sparkles. I see like silver, magenta, green in here. Next we have Magic, which I think is my favorite shade in the palette. This is a really, really beautiful wet look shade. It has a muted terracotta base and it has gold with blue sparkles in it. Very reflective, wet looking on the eyes. All the shimmers in here feel really creamy. Even like the flaky ones, they feel very creamy, almost like wet to the touch, but not like oily or squishy. It's hard to describe, but they just feel very luxe. And this is one of the more smooth shades in the palette. It has a smaller particle size compared to some of the more chunky shades. For example, the next shade I'm going to show you, Mist. This is one of the chunkier shades in the palette. It has a sheer brown base and it shifts from pink to gold to green. Has a large flaky particle size. Definitely applies better with a finger, but it can be smoothed out. Next we have Fire. This has a mid-tone orange base and it shifts from gold to green primarily. This is again one of the more smooth, smaller particle size shades in the palette, relatively speaking. Then we have Scales. This has a sheer black or deep gray base and it shifts from green to blue to purple. Very shifty. This one's very PC, so if you just apply like a layer of it, you're going to see that black / dark gray base peeking through. If you really apply it in an opaque layer or apply it over a tacky base, it's going to be more of like a foiled metallic finish. You're not going to see that base as much, but you're still going to see some sparkle. Then we have Fierce, a muted mid-tone green with a gold flip. This is another one of the more chunky shades in the palette. It has a large flaky particle size. Can be smoothed out. I definitely think this applies better with a finger. I use these in one of the looks, so you'll see me try to apply it with a brush and then my finger. It didn't pick up as easily with a brush, but it was not a problem to smooth out using my finger. Then the last shade we have here is called Fly. This is an iridescent. It's like a gold to green shifting shade. Almost has like a peach reflect to it too. This reminds me of the shade Magic, but just without that terracotta base. A really beautiful shade. Perfect topper. Okay, now that I've shown you all the shades, let's go ahead and get into the 2 looks I created with this palette. For the first look, I started with the shade Spikes, which is this beautiful like purpley mauve mid-toned shade, and I diffused that all over my crease and started to bring it out all the way towards the end of my brow, and I buffed it underneath my lower lash line as well. Then with a smaller blending brush, I went into the shade Smoke, which is a neutral mid-tone brown, and I started to put that in my outer corner, kind of following that same shape I mapped out before and also blending it into the shade Spikes. So I'm looking at the footage now. It doesn't look like it's applying as well as I remember it applying. However, I've had dry eyes for the last couple of weeks because I had a really bad migraine episode and I had like heating pad on my affected eye. So I think that really dried it out. But anyway, I mean, it looked fine in person, but up in this macro lens, it's not looking the best. I did use Fear and Pixie Epoxy because, like I said, I have dry eyes. Went into the shade Magic with my finger, and then I just tapped it on my lid. So as you can see, it kind of just like melts into the mattes I paired it with. Like, you don't really see that base too much, and it almost has like this silver reflect. I would say it's more of like a gold with blue flecks, but I feel like in real life and in this footage too, you see mostly like a silver coming from the shadow. By the way, I usually get a question on my nail polish. I'm using Clionadh Apres 8 on clear press-on nails. I'll link the nail polish in the description. So I went into the shade Fly with a large pencil brush, and I just kind of put it on my inner corner and brought it up into the swoop of my lid, just like I usually do. And I feel like this paired really well with the shade Magic because they have kind of like a similar reflect to them. Here's the finished look. I feel like this is a very typical, like, everyday look for me. I felt really pretty wearing it. I think it looked great in person, so I was very happy with how this one turned out. In contrast to the next look I'm about to show you, which is kind of a fail, so I forgot to film the part where I dipped my brush in, but I went into the shade Scales with a small brush, and I did spray it with just, like, plain water. And I started to map out a wing, and this is where things started to go wrong. I feel like the tail, something about the way I shaped it out is just, like, not it looked really like awkward on my eye. But anyway, here I am trying to fill it in, and I got tired of using a brush. It was taking too long, so I just went in with my finger and then kind of used a brush to diffuse the edges. Then I went into the shade Fierce with the same brush. Obviously I cleaned it off in between, and I sprayed it again with a bit of water, and I started to kind of map out the inner half of this look. This is a look I've done a few times, but I realized through doing this it worked a lot better with less chunky flaky shades. Like, the textures of these shades do not lend themselves well. I did a close-up of the brush so you can see kind of what I was working with and why I think it's better to apply these types of shades with a finger. But anyway, I went in with a finger and I was much happier with how it looked using my finger, and I wiped off any excess on the side of the pan before. But then I went back in with Scales again and kind of just like blended them together. I felt like I wanted Scales to be on more of my lid because it's a more smooth shade. Then I went in the inner corner with Scales too. And here's a look. I really did not like how it came out, but it was more to do with the fact that I was using the wrong shadows for this type of look. Nothing wrong with the actual shadows. Okay, and I just want to show you real quick, they sent me some brushes, which I haven't had a chance to use yet because I wanted to record them looking still pristine and pretty, but you'll definitely see me using these in a lot of future tutorials. I was really excited because I've heard amazing things about these brushes, about their brushes in general. Like, I've heard they're amazing brushes, so I will definitely report back once I've had a chance to use them. Let me know, did this palette catch your eye? Is it going on your wish list? Do you think you're going to pick it up on Friday? Let's talk about it in the comments, but that's going to be it for this video. I hope you liked it. Hope you found it helpful. If you did, please give it a thumbs up. Please subscribe to my channel if you're not already. And other than that, I'll see you in the next one. Bye.